Today's topic, we're going to discuss how to reduce labor costs with Aldelo Express. This is a passion of mine, and as you get into it and you start seeing the reasons why, you'll understand why I discuss this with every prospect that we talk to, everyone. And I recommend that today is one of those days you really don't do this multitasking, that you pay attention to this presentation and understand it and place it into your bag, because this is the one that's going to help you sell more systems. So how much should labor cost be? That's a good question, and one that you need the answer for. Quick service, it should be around 25%, up or down, minus or plus, a little bit around it, but 25% is a good goal. If it's in the 30s, something's wrong, and you really can make a difference for them. Their answer should be 25%. But when you're talking to a quick service guy and they tell you their labor is 25%, you may assume that they're just telling you that, and that their labor is a lot higher. Table service is 30 to 40%. It is more labor intensive to run a table service restaurant. But these are the numbers you should have in your head whenever you're talking about labor cost for a restaurant. So how important is it? Let's take just an average restaurant, $500,000. That's not huge. Now, this is not just credit card sales. This is total sales. So a $500,000 restaurant, if you were to reduce their labor by 1%, you're going to increase their profit by $5,000. 2% is $10,000, just quick math. By that, you can see that labor is the fastest way to affect bottom line profits. And that's why, as a POS salesperson, that is one of the reasons you really, really should focus on this aspect when talking to every restaurant that you talk to. So ways to reduce labor. This is some of the ways I found when I searched it on Google. So use self-ordering apps, such as the third-party apps we talked about, such as Uber, Grubhub, those. But we have our own. We have our own Mesa Plus app. This is included with Aldelo Express. So if you can get the restaurant's customers to enter their own orders, that will increase sales without increasing labor. And that's why a app such as Mesa Plus will help reduce labor costs by increasing the sales. The other way to do it is to install kiosks. Kiosk terminals do have a cost as far as the purchase of the hardware, but they do help reduce labor cost because they're helping the restaurant increase sales without hiring additional cashiers. Use digital transaction options such as Aldelo Pay and Google Pay. Those will speed up the point of sale process. They make it quicker to get your transactions through. So by offering Aldelo Pay, or I'm sorry, Apple Pay and Google Pay, you will increase the speed of service and reduce labor. Another way is to automation. Automation such as kitchen printers, kitchen display systems, and handheld terminals. All three of those help increase sales and then therefore reduce labor percentage. And then the last way we're going to do this, that we're going to reduce labor, is by using a true labor scheduler. Aldelo Express comes with a labor scheduler built in. This does afford a lot of control to the restaurant owner. It does also brings order to the payroll process, and that we do have clock in and out for not only for the shift, but for the breaks. We keep up with that. And then there's an export feature that allows this code then to go into a true payroll package. So having a labor scheduler is just part of the solution, but it is a key part. So what are the goals of a labor scheduler? First thing is to maximize productivity, to make sure you have the right number of people on staff at the right time. You don't want to have too many cooks and not enough servers. Too many servers, not enough cooks. So you want to be able to balance that out and increase and maximize productivity by having a very organized labor schedule. You want to maintain a high customer service by making sure that you have the right amount of people to handle the volume at that time. Positive work environment means that we're going to have the right people at the right time and not stress out your employees. That then leads into attracting and retaining good and quality employees. So what does a labor scheduler do and how does it help? Well, it does lower labor costs without doubt. If you are planning out your labor a week or 2 weeks ahead of time, you're going to then give thought to it and make sure that you have the right number of people at the right time. You're going to increase productivity by having the right people on and reduce overtime. That's a key one. That's a big one. We're going to get into that here shortly and explain how that feature or that one line will help justify the entire system. Eliminate coverage gaps and increase employee retention and ease administrative burden by making sure that the right people are here at the right time. It'll guide future hiring decisions to let you know that how much volume we're able to do with this number of employees. And by increasing an employee, it may not increase sales, but when you're ready to increase sales and ready to promote the business at a higher rate, your sales are going to increase. That'll guide your hiring decisions. Improving customer service and help with a plan for the future growth of the restaurant. All these things will help that restaurant and that business grow. So what about an ROI? Okay, these are the questions that you should be looking for. So who can use the labor scheduler? Is it for everybody? Maybe not, but let's just take a look at what is possible. So if number of employees, I'd say at least 10, but you could go lower. Now the 10 employees don't mean full-time. They could be 10 part-time employees, but I say my judgment is around 10 employees. If they have 10 or more, they're really a qualified for a labor scheduler. So who does the payroll? Is it an accountant or service? Yes, they're going to want then a labor scheduler and using the labor module. So how often is payroll done? Well, the more often it's done, the more work there is. But you do really have to realize that some restaurants now are giving out paychecks every day. They put them on a debit card. They're doing this a daily payroll. So it can be a lot of work. And the more work that they're doing is more time that they're spending doing it. So the more automation they can put in place, better off they are. So let's take a look at what the actual numbers are and how this would play out. So if they're working on 15 an hour, which is pretty average now for restaurants, it's about $15 an hour. It equals up to 25 cents a minute, a quarter a minute. So if the clock in and clock out, if you are running a labor scheduler and you then have set a window of 5 minutes early or clocking out 5 minutes late, you have a window there that is going to prohibit somebody from riding the clock. So when you set that limit, well, if you don't have the limit, what's going to happen is they're going to come in, punch in, and go out back, smoke a cigarette, go to the bathroom, do their hair, fluff it up, get ready to go, and 15 minutes later, they actually report to work. So what we're doing is that we're setting a restriction to not allow them to clock in 15 or 20 minutes early. We're going to say they have a restriction of 5 minutes early, and they cannot clock out 5 minutes late, either of which takes a manager override to do that. So therefore, you're eliminating this riding the clock. But if you had somebody doing that, and they were doing it 5 days a week, which they would be consistent with it, they would do it, and they do it for 52 weeks, you start talking to a restaurant owner, and he's saying, 5 minutes early? I know what they're doing. They're out back, they're doing this, they're doing this, they're doing it. He's thinking in his mind that 5 minutes is like nothing. They're riding the clock for 15 or 20. He's thinking that while you're explaining this. So if they go 5 minutes early, 5 days a week, 52 weeks, that's $650 a year. And if he has 8 employees doing that, that's $5,200 a year lost in profit. It's just over 1% on a $500,000 restaurant. So we just lowered their labor by 1% off that one feature. And all they have to do to make that happen are there's 2 flags in the back. That's it. And I'll show you those flags in a minute. But there's only 2 settings to make that happen. And then just activate payroll, do the labor schedule, done. Every day it's going to monitor those clock in and outs to not allow somebody to ride the clock. So let's remember this one here. Remember this one. Let's do another one. So at $15 an hour, that's equal to $22.50 in overtime. Now, depending on what state you're in, how overtime is calculated, it could be anything over 8 hours a day is overtime. In other places, it's 40 hours a week is overtime. So it depends on your locale and what the laws are in your state. But let's just understand $22.50 is the overtime rate. And you're discussing this with the restaurant owner, and you go, well, what if you have a 1 hour a week overtime? And that restaurant owner is going to laugh. He's going, we got more overtime than that. Everybody's doing this. So everybody's riding the clock on me. Well, if they did 1 hour overtime per week for 52 weeks, that is $1,170 a year. Same 8 employees. Now we've lost $9,360 in profit, which is 1.87% on a $500,000 restaurant. You add that to the riding the clock ROI we just did, you now are now at 1.91%. We just lowered their labor cost by 2%, just on those 2 things alone. So conversations to have with the restaurant owner. What do they use now or intend to use if they have a new store for their scheduling and time clock? Anything other than pen and paper can be approved. Everything can be improved upon with a labor scheduling module. Too many restaurants are just doing it with pen and paper. Others will try to do it with an Excel spreadsheet, but even those fall way short compared to the features that we have in our module. So how much are they spending in overtime? Well, that every dollar of that is controllable. Whether they're controlling the riding the clock issue where they get an extra hour or 2 per paycheck, we can shut that down. If they're doing a bad labor schedule where they intentionally schedule somebody for too many hours during that week, we can help with that and show them that ahead of time. How do they stop employees from riding the clock? Well, they probably don't. So there's a good reason to do the labor schedule with the 5-minute grace periods. So labor is the single largest ROI item that you can discuss with a restaurant owner. You have to have this discussion with every prospect. You have to bring this up because they probably are not controlling it. Now, there are restaurants that do a good job with it. There are restaurants that do the best they can. But the majority of restaurant owners, this is not an area that they focus on. And this is an area where they need a lot of help on. This is where you're going to come in and do just that. Take notes. Now, you're going, well, I can remember this. That's not the purpose. When you are writing things down and you're taking written notes, you're doing a couple of key important things. One is you're showing in the taking of notes that you're writing on paper. You're used to writing it down. You're used to doing the note taking, and you're showing that it's okay to sign or write on paper. And when you are doing that on the back of a contract or you're on your notebook, you're giving the example of that it's okay to write. And you're breaking in the buyer that it's okay to write things down, including signing your contract. The next thing is you're showing them how important this is to you and how important it should be to them. So take written notes with what they're saying. Then when it comes time for the presentation aspect and prior to closing, you want to be a consultant. You want to help them be a better business person. And you do that by being a consultant. Don't be a salesperson, be a consultant and help them be a better operator. Know your numbers. Those numbers that I just used a few minutes ago, practice them. Practice them so that you can get this down and give examples. And they need to be conservative examples so that when you're explaining them to them, and the restaurant owner, he's going, well, that's easy. I can do that. Or that's not very much. I know we're losing more than that. Use conservative numbers, but know your numbers. Make it smooth that you don't fumble and stumble when you do them. Make it so that they cannot live without labor scheduling. And they probably the truth is they probably can't live without labor scheduling. They just don't know it yet. And what I'm fearful of is in our network here that not enough of you are comfortable with labor scheduling to even talk about it. So this is important. It's critical. And you need to really get good at it. The purpose of today's training is not to sell you on labor scheduling. It's to increase your sales. The easiest way to increase your sales is to improve your closing percentage. It's not pulling more doors. It's not getting more people in for a presentation. It's doing a better job closing what people you do talk to. If you're closing 20%, anything above 20, you can go to 40%. You just doubled your sales. Increase your sales closing percentage. You do that through knowing your numbers that we just talked about here, doing quality, good return on investments, and then learning through books and other media, podcasts on how to close. If you are raising your closing percentage, you're going to raise your sales. Do a real ROI analysis. Do them in front of the customer, with the customer, using their numbers. Make it solution for them. And always remember, add-ons add cost. Our labor scheduler and our payroll module or exports are all included with Aldelo Express. So the labor module, scheduler module are included at no charge. If you can make them understand that they cannot live without labor scheduler, then you're going to force your competition to have to add on theirs. So remember, add-ons add cost. We want to force your competition out of their comfort zone by making this a live or die application for the restaurant. Okay, questions. Chelsea and Jeff, what did I miss in the chats?
It seems like we've been staying up to date on most of the questions.
What are the key questions that came up that I could address?
Someone just asked, could it be applied to a different industry other than restaurants?
Yeah, every industry needs this. And this, what I went into today is not just for restaurants. Every retail operation, grocery operation, operations that we don't even work with need labor scheduling. Now, our product is included with Aldelo Express. So they would have to install the Aldelo Express app and use it as their point of sale in order to work. So while every operation needs a scheduler, this one that only would work with our product.
And then someone just asked if we had a video promo about the labor scheduler on our YouTube channel.
We have the top 5 reasons you need labor scheduling. Is that what they're talking about? So how can I make a good ROI analysis? I think, Doug, you're asking about a Excel sheet. It's really simple. You just put at the top, you put in your parameters, their annual volume, their current labor percentage, and then their overtime rate, however they calculate that. Is it daily or weekly? And what their overtime is they're paying right now. So you want to get what they're doing now at the top. And then at the bottom, you would just do the quick calculations. Their average pay, how many hours? Well, let's just take a look. I have it here. Whatever I put on the screen is perfect. Have your spreadsheet calculate all this. Take a screenshot, Doug. This is what I would make my spreadsheet do, is calculate all these items. And then I'd use this for my overtime. So take another screenshot of that. And that's how I'd make my spreadsheet. And if you're using spreadsheets in front of the customer, you have to make sure that they can see the screen and watch what you're doing. If they can see your screen and they believe in your numbers, a spreadsheet is a good way to make the calculations. Another good way is to hand them the calculator. Just say, here, I want you to run the numbers for me while I do this. And that way they can see what's being input and they can see the results for themselves. You already know the results. You know what's going to come up with. You just have to guide them through the process. So either way works. Having a physical calculator that works on a phone or one that you keep in your drawer, you can use one like that and just let them run the numbers or do a spreadsheet. I've done both and they're both effective. Well, then let's go set it up and show you what it looks like on screen. All right, you're looking at I think you are, let's see. All right, let's go now to the settings area. I want to go store config and look down at the bottom under staff config. So here's where you'd set up some of the options for things we talked about today. Is it a pay period? What is it? Remember, I said now some of these people are paying daily. And you set up your overtime here. Daily overtime pay when exceeds an 8-hour day. Double time is at 12. That some of the states will have that as their law, as their rules. Weekly overtime rate. And then down here, this is their holiday pays. So you would add holidays to their labor schedule by clicking here and configuring the pay date for New Year's Day, 4th of July, whatever those holidays are that their company decides to pay for holiday pay, you set those up in this block. Here's your clock in grace period that we talked about. Default is 5 minutes, but you can set these for whatever. Now, sometimes you want to clock out grace minutes for a little bit longer on the back end so that cashiers and others can do their cleanup and their prep work for the next day. That's a decision made by the restaurant, but there certainly needs to be some kind of leeway before and after clock in. So if they're supposed to clock in at 10, they can't clock in until 9:55. Any earlier, and they're going to waste a lot of time. Cashiers need a few minutes to do their balancing afterwards. There may be a 15-minute there is a good grace period. That's up to the restaurant owner. This is where you set it, but that's how you control it. You also have the ability to make a requirement that they clock in before they can ring up and cashier or serve. That's another flag option. That's here. Prompt clock in after POS login. This is the disabled for salaried employees. If you've not gone through these lists of this area under staff config, under store config, go through each option and make sure that you understand clearly what that's going to do for you. Every feature, every one of these is a feature. Everything I'm showing you is a feature of the system, and you need to know what it does. If you don't, let us know. We'll answer that question gladly. But go through this and get comfortable with what this looks like. Once you're done with that, you go into staff scheduling. You have the employee here. Pull down the employee's name. And this is their current schedule. Here's the default schedule for this employee. The scheduler allows you to have 3 schedules per day. So this employee could work a breakfast, clock out, come back 2 hours later, work a lunch, clock out 2 hours later, and clock in back in for a dinner So they're not there all day, but they're in there for 3 different shifts. So our system allows the system to have, that employee can have 3 shifts per day. And it's real simple to then program an employee shift. You touch, and I said touch on purpose because remember, guys, this program is designed to be done on an iPad or Android without a mouse. So it's built a bit slightly different than it would be if it was just mouse driven. So touch, and then you have a choice what times you like them to come in. If you click the whole hour, it will then give you the ability to pick the hour that you would like them to come in. Then you could click and touch what minute you would like. Now I've got that employee coming in at 10:15. They're going home at 4. That's it. Now that's a simple, easy way to set a schedule. Do that again for every day of the week. Now that's it for scheduling. Once you're done, you get your hours that they're scheduled for. Are they scheduled for any overtime, any double time? And what's their total hours? So you really know ahead of time as a restaurant owner how many dollars you're spending. Once you're done with the entire schedule, you can email the schedules, all of them, or to that individual employee. All right, any questions about scheduling and how to do that? All right, last thing I was going to show you under labor, your labor schedules are here for you to look at. There's the ones I just did. All right, I hope you see how, first off, how important labor modules and labor schedules are to a restaurant, how critical they are with regard to controlling the cost and increasing the profits of a restaurant. This is the #1 area where restaurants can make or break their bottom line. You as a consultant need to help them understand that and help them understand then how our system can truly save their business. It's just that important. It's just that important. And then #2 is how easy it is. You need to be able to show this as easy as I just did it. And the only way you're going to do that is by practicing it. Watching a video, that only gives you the understanding of where to go look. You need to have the understanding of where to touch, where to click, and how to show it, and you make it easy. If you're going to fumble through it, they're going to think it's hard. And it's not. It's very simple. It's very easy. You've got to get good with this.